You know, as I've been replaying Deus Ex, I do what I normally do on most of my runs. I do you know, maybe half speed run kind of thing, or I guess maybe like speed walk it or whatever. Um, but part of it is I let myself use glitches like the XP, the XP exploit glitches, get a bunch of XP shit, the infinite or whatever you want to call it, lockpick multi-tool shit. And so what that means is, as far as I'm aware, the first kind of XP glitch, or well, the first set of them happens on the shipyard thing. And I ran into an issue that I always end up running into when I do this. So I always forget about the thing where like it'll crash whenever you're doing these kind of XP farming things. And I've seen different uh kind of like explanations or whatever for it online. I've seen some people say that it's due to the amount of XP you gain, and I actually don't think that's the case. I think I have an idea of what's going on, and as I've said before, you know, I've done level design shit for, over 20 years at this point as a hobby. I've fucked with modding games and this and that, for 2+ decades, just in general. And so I wouldn't say that I guarantee know the answer on this, but I probably have a stronger idea of what's going on than most individuals would have. And the more I fuck with it, the more I believe that it's actually some type of buffer overflow or like integer overflow or something like that that's taking place. And the reason I think that is because every time I do this, I do it with that ramp to the ship, on the ship thing, whatever. Um, at the fucking naval yard or whatever the fuck. And so I hack it with a multi-tool and I just hold the use key and just let it go up and down. But something I noticed is that, and I always forget about it and have to get reminded, is if you do it too many times, if you try to save or go through a level transition, it'll crash the game. And I think the reason that it's happening is that saves in a lot of video games, I mean, all video games, they're basically a save state, no different than an emulator, even if you're not emulating. Like, it's literally saving the state of the game at that particular point. And I think what Deus Ex does whenever you make a save is part of what it's saving is the number of interactions you've had with an object. And in the case of, these things like the keypads and this and that you can use to gain XP, sort of more than you're supposed to. Whoever, apparently the ones in the Game of the Year edition are the only ones that do this, and it's actually a regression. But everybody now probably plays Game of the Year, so most individuals don't even remember the original retail versions of the map. I think there are mods to fix it. But basically what I think is happening is, so whoever did those versions of the map forgot to check the box to make it only happen once. But the game is saving how many times you've interacted with that object. And whenever you try to save the game, if you go over, like, it's probably a fixed limit. It's probably either like a signed or unsigned 8-bit integer or something. Because it seems to take, around 100 to 200 uses before going through a level transition or trying to manually save crashes it. So I think that's what's happening, is just the object is storing how many interactions it's had. And because it overflows or whatever is happening, it gets a number that it's not expecting, in the game, kind of doesn't know what to do and just crashes itself. And I think some people think it's a cause of how much XP that you gained as a result of it, just because that's what they're thinking of. But what it seems to be to me is that it's a limit on the uses, and I try to keep it like what I do with the naval yards is I'll do it like 100 times. So with that one, you get 3,000, and then go back out the like if you talk to Vinny and you can go through the keypadded door, I just turn around and just walk through that and then walk back, and it takes longer, but you know that seems to I don't have crashes at all if I do it like that. I haven't really tried to see what the limit of the usages are, but I wouldn't be surprised if it were 128-ish or 256-ish or something like that. But I think it's due to uh, the actual usages of whatever you're using to farm the XP and not the total XP itself, right? So hypothetically, the kind of XP limit, so to speak, would just be whatever XP you get for the exploit per usage times the number of usages that is the actual limit. And so, with that bridge in the naval yards, I mean, it takes a while. Um, you know, if I didn't do that exploit, like all of that level, and then Hong Kong as well. Like Hong Kong, well, you go to Hong Kong, then New York again, or, well, the bar area thing again, and then that, pretty sure. That whole area takes me less time than the time it takes to sit there farming the XP at that little ramp thing. And I kind of wish that there was something like that earlier in the game. And, I try to do it sort of like not cheating like that. I know maybe some people would consider that cheating, but in my opinion, it's part of the game. But there's also the trade-off where it's like I have to spend the time doing it, right? And it would be cool if there was one earlier than that, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel the same, or like it feels less legit if you like put in the fucking console command, right, to just give yourself more shit or whatever. And so it's like, all right, whatever. Maybe I should just do it like that. I probably will. Again, sometime I do it very occasionally. Sometimes I do legit runs where I don't, for example, farm AUG canisters with Jaime. If you get him to come to Hong Kong and you save an AUG canister and your inventory is full, you can basically fully upgrade all your AUGs right there, right? Um, you could do it with Savage if you saved his daughter as well, but it's like, this one you can do earlier. And, of course, the lockpick multi-tool stuff glitch. But sometimes I'll do runs where I don't allow myself to do bullshit like that. And if you don't do shit like that, you pick a way different inventory or play style rather, or like XP. The way you divvy that out is way different if you don't use exploits. It's like with Fear, the original Fear game, First Encounter Assault Recon. If you let yourself do the glitch to basically get a lot more ammo, right? So the way you do it is you drop the version you're holding, pick up the one you were about to walk over, and then pick up the previous one. Because the ammo gets saved on the weapon and not you. So I've even like the assault rifle in the game, I've loaded up several of them to 450 rounds, and I'll just go back for the other ones when I need them or whatever. But, if you do shit like that, you'll prefer way different weapons, right? Like, once you can get the repeating cannon, if you use that exploit, you can keep it till the end of the game, basically. Same thing with, the ASP rifle and this and that. So, yeah, like, whether you choose to use glitches or not can pretty significantly affect how you play the game. But most of my playthroughs are with glitches and on both games. But like I might do another run where I just like all AUGs, all XP or like whatever the codes are to just max yourself out right at the start. I don't usually. I actually do that more rarely than playing the game regular without glitches. But yeah, the game is way more of a pain in the ass if you don't use glitches. Like from what I read, if I remember correctly, if you gained all the XP you could gain in the game without glitches, you wouldn't even get enough XP to fully max out all your skills. And same thing with upgrade canisters. And supposedly they did that on purpose, and that makes sense. It's annoying, but it makes sense. Um, a lot of people talk about how the augs and skills and like weapon add-on stuff in the game is redundant, but it's actually not. It's actually a brilliant system. So, like for an example, you could get pinpoint accuracy with pistols by fully maxing out the skill on it, or you could just put a laser on it and max out something else, right? Or you could get kind of best of both worlds on something by putting XP into one thing, but using augmentations to, you know, kind of amplify something else, right? So, like for an example, if you didn't want to, put a bunch into low tech to get stronger on the dragon tooth, you could use the combat strength aug. What's interesting though about it is like most of this stuff stacks, so you can max out low tech and then also use combat strength, and like at that point you can jib a lot of corpses with one hit, right? And then you can test it yourself. There's a lot of stuff doors and shit you can break with the sword, if it's maxed out. But then there's other ones that you can't but will break if you have the combat strength, right? Um, but yeah, just the different ways you can, like, it's like they did it on purpose specifically to get you to mix and match on that stuff. And I actually think that's a brilliant gameplay design. And that's one of the reasons I kind of don't like how they like mixed lockpicks and multi-tools together in the second game, Invisible War. And I don't like how it's like the PS2 version of the first game where you have to actually find the codes to be able to put them in. um it is nice if you can just know it ahead of time. And all right, maybe they don't want you to sequence break, but like, why not, right? I mean, isn't that part of the fun of the game? But yeah, some stuff like that kind of sucks. So I think a lot of changes in Invisible War were nice, but I also think that there's some stuff like that that was oversimplified. Obvious stuff, yeah, make the strength aug like make you jump higher and hit harder, and then it's passive, right? Or like this and that, like some shit like that makes sense. But yeah, I feel like it was over design, like oversimplified in some ways. But you know, as much as people want to shit on Invisible War, it's actually kind of difficult in that game to soft lock yourself, or crash it even. Like actually, Invisible War crashes less for me than the original. And actually, I've seen a soft lock on the original game like an hour ago that I'd never seen before. I don't even think I've seen anybody talk about it. I don't know what I did, but I basically got stuck in that little chamber that Tracer Tong has you stand on when you first meet him in Hong Kong, right? It's like the red force field and like the thing spinning. Whenever it got done, he's like, all right, come back. But like the force field was still there. And I'm like, now, I knew I could just do the thing to make me be able to jump higher with the legs augmentation to kind of jump over it. But I'm just kind of like, what did I even do to make it like get stuck like that? But imagine if that happened and you weren't aware of different other exploits you could do. It's a lot. It is easier to soft lock yourself or break the game with the first game, but that's also part of the charm, isn't it? I don't know, but yeah, I think the XP stuff crashes the game in the first game due to the number of interactions, and not actually the amount of XP. There's apparently a thing in Vandenberg you can XP farm that gives you 100 XP per usage of the keypad. I don't know. I prefer to be maxed out on the shipyard thing, so I can already be maxed out by Vandenberg. But I don't know. I guess it would be faster and maybe crash less. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say on this one.